Mr. Pip is set on a remote Pacific island, and it's about Matilda and her encounter with the last white man living on the island, Mr. Watts. The book is set on the island of Bougainville, which is a very, very mountainous place with extraordinary trees, very, very lush, very hot, and very beautiful. We meet Matilda on the very first page. She's our eyes and ears for the story. She's a bright-eyed, barefoot, curious child who's living in a dangerous and uncertain world. It's set during a particularly terrible time of civil war. All the white people have left the island, except one person, Mr. Watts. With the school teachers and the doctors and everybody, they've fled the island. Mr. Watts steps into the role of teaching the children. And he only has one teaching resource, and that's a copy of Charles Dickens' Great Expectations.
My father's family name being Pirrip and my Christian name being Philip, my infant tongue could make a both.
The first day of school, he tells the children that they're all going to meet Mr. Dickens. They're all amazed to discover that the Charles Dickens they thought they were going to meet is in fact long dead and the author of a book. The book has a particular impact on Matilda. She becomes obsessed with Pip. In fact, Pip becomes her friend, and she's amazed that she found this friend in a book and not up a tree or down at the beach. Pip is as real to her as her schoolmates or her family for that matter. And she does that very childlike thing. She picks up a stick and writes the letters Pip in the sand down at the beach and decorates the letters with shells and so forth. In doing that, she's taken Pip off the pages of the book and placed him in the real world. And this creates some confusion because when the government troops come to the village to find out who is living there, one of the soldiers finds the name Pip in the sand on the beach. The officer threatens the villagers. They must produce this Mr. Pip within a fortnight. At some point, the book goes missing. And Mr. Watts challenges the children to try and remember Great Expectations. And in doing so, when all the fragments are kind of put together, a different book arises from all of that, a Pacific version of Great Expectations. Often people talk about reading as being escapist, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's the opposite. The whole experience of literature is kind of a combined effort. There's some line in the narrative where reader and writer meet. When we read, it forces us to give pause, take time out from our own life and examine somebody else's life and perhaps reflect back on our own.